1, 2, 3, 4.
Finding how you fit in that picture, I think, is a lifelong journey. You have to try a lot of things, see if something sticks. But when you find that thing, you run with it, baby. One always needs to see how one can improve oneself, one can grow. Never stay settled with what you're doing.
I try to think about if I'm offering value. Because if people are taking their time to watch my content or they choose to subscribe or follow me, I want to make sure that it's worth their time and I am providing any value. And whether if that be something educational or entertainment or inspiration, you want to, as a creator, bring value, I think, in any sense. And I think that is the baseline in which will help build, I think, an audience and have people continue to return and interact with you, is if you can continue to provide some sort of value.
Welcome everybody to the
Faking Notes podcast. What it do?
Oh my gosh, our first multi-guest roundtable throwdown.
This episode is definitely one of my favorites. We brought in our boys. We brought in the squad. We brought in the A team for this one, y'all. So I hope you guys enjoy it. It's once again Ken Kubota, the cellist, co-founder, member of Empire Wild, Instagram sensation, on one corner. And on the other corner, we have our boy, the associate principal cellist of the Seattle Symphony, Nathan Chan, social media extraordinaire, just brilliant investor and an intelligent, thoughtful human. We had an incredible conversation.
If you've been on the internet in the past 10 years, you've seen one of these guys. They're there, they're a presence, they're educating, they're creating, man, and they're inspiring. So we open up about NFTs, and then we talk about dealing with criticism, consistency, the pros and cons of being a social presence and a creator for so many years. We also talk about how to execute the game plan and what really is at the core of the craft of creation, of music, of art making. And we have fun. We're just hanging out, having some questions. And as it goes, it gets deeper and deeper, also more and more motivational. I don't know about you, Drew, but I'm pumped.
Oh, dude, I have 3 sticky notes of things that I want to do now. And it's nothing we actually said, but like my brain just lit on fire with ideas on where I want to take my creations. So yeah, if you're kind of in a rut and you want to get inspired, this is the episode to listen to.
There's also some cool stuff about Adele. So a certain someone sitting across from me, Drew's Adele concert. So stay in for the scoop on that.
Lil T. Yeah.
But before Adele, let's say hello to our podcast. Please subscribe, leave us a review, and so we'll read it on the pod. We'll read it right here. I dare you. Give us a review. 5 stars only. It's all we accept.
And don't forget to join our Discord channel. We just had a chat, a little kind of a roundtable like this about the entrepreneur life as an artist. If you weren't there, you missed out. Shout out to Aunt Shay and Travis for showing up and being a part of that. And Emmanuel, of course, for being the person who started it. And there's more of that in the future. So join our Discord, Faking Notes Podcast. And if you want to support us, keep helping us grow this podcast, support us on Patreon. We need funding. We got to make sure producer Daniel gets some dinner money. But we also want to expand the team. There's a lot of content that we can't make right now that we want to. Skits, comedy, more long-form videos. I mean, yeah, all you got to do if you want some pictures of my feet, just
donate to the Patreon. Top tier.
Donate to the Patreon. But anyway, Faking Notes Podcast on Patreon if you want to support us monetarily. But without further ado, let's get into our epic conversation with the one, the only, well, the two.
The only.
Nathan Chan
and
Ken Kubota. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining the Faking News podcast. We've done 100 episodes, and we thought it'd be so dope to just bring our boys back here with us, Nathan Chan and Ken Kubota. And even more so, we want to actually bring producer Daniel in on the chat and have him light the torch on this Olympic endeavor by starting the conversation. So producer Daniel, thank you. Ken Kubota, thank you. Nathan Chan, thank you for joining the Fake News podcast.
Welcome, everybody. I sound like I'm the host, but no, it's a pleasure to be back.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us, man.
Is this a takeover? A Fake News podcast
this is
takeover?
actually, Nathan and I, we're just going to actually interrogate you three.
Uh-oh. Row.
Yes.
So, Nathan, Ken. Oh, by the way, it's producer Daniel here. What's up, Faking Fam? The Faking Fam haven't they haven't heard me very much. You know, I've made some brief cameos and stuff like that, but this is me. Hello, this is me. Words of wisdom from Adele. Anyways, Nathan and Ken, it's been a minute. How have you guys been
Doing
doing?
well, Dan.
How's life?
You know, just
Everything good?
living life.
Yeah.
Enjoying the days.
Yeah.
Drew and I are really deep into the crypto universe, which has been fun. It's hard to practice when you're keeping track of all the charts and the daily markets, and you know, we just trying to get financially literate out here and be great at our instruments. You know how it is.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna kick off this first question. So that's actually something that I wanted to talk to you about, Nathan, and something I guess you could maybe go into a little bit more detail about, which is I understand that you've dipped your toes T game. Yeah, you just long ago released an NFT.
Yes,
it's
artist, doing pretty well.
How's that doing? Right.
Unfortunately, the marketplace in which we listed our NFT, which is based on the Tezos blockchain, was recently sort of shut down. So we're thinking about the next project, and I've got a really interesting concept that I would love to run by you guys. Okay, here's the idea. So I'm going to commission 15 to 20 composers to create works that are the synthesis of everything they stand for in the musical world. But there's let's say there's a limit in terms of what the defining domain can be. What is this? The request is to create a piece that's no longer than 1 minute in length. Can it be done? The challenge is yours. And so I would love to create this album. And then after each of these pieces is created, I want to pair each work with an amazing creative visual artist and release the album as a visual album and as NFTs. What do you think about that?
Do you want to jump in, Drew?
Of course. No, I think that what is so valuable about this is that it is clear. I think that limits are not only necessary, but they are the kindling upon which a forest fire of creativity can burn. And it also trends very well with the attention spans of humans in terms of like our ability to process information over time. Unfortunately, due to like being a part of the information age, we don't really pay attention to longer form things as well, which is like probably why, you know, it's not very smart to start a podcast. that with episodes that are like 90 minutes plus long. But I think there is like this dichotomy. I think that people do come to podcasts for long form. And when it comes to NFT projects, these will live in different platforms other than a podcast. So I think that, the shorter constraint is beautiful. Now, can you speak more specifically about like, what are the parameters that you want people to stand for, right? Like, is this going to be like social issues? Is this going to be like charities? This is going to be like, I stand for pizza. So, like, I'm curious as to like the metrics, because I think the more you niche down, the more powerful this product can be.
So I loved what you were saying, and I guess the whole genesis of the idea was whether or not one could marry creativity and conciseness. And in that respect, the theme is that I really want the music to speak for itself in terms of what's really possible in a shorter constraint. Another thing I want to do is make sure that the instrumentation is not limited. So it's not like a solo cello album or anything, because I understand that, especially these days, one can really augment and find incredible diversity in the density of sounds with technology, multiple instruments, multi-tracking. I want to explore all those possibilities and sort of marry those ideas in which your creativity is not limited in that scope, but it's limited in terms of time.
I think it's brilliant.
I want to hear Trevor's thoughts, because
I'm of course
he's
a big fan of anything that can help poor little composers out. And you should be able to find 15 to 20. They're not really doing anything. So hit them up.
but maybe we could go. Sorry, go ahead. After you.
No, go for it. And I think what'll be interesting too, and what I think we're all on very similar pages with, the pros and cons of NFTs and yada yada, putting all the basic conversations aside. One thing I like about it, and that we've already seen with the music that's been released in the NFT space, is that the audience for these, the people buying these, people sharing these and promoting these, is not our usual audience, which is amazing.
Amazing, yes.
People are finding value, and by finding value, I mean expensive value, actual monetary value, in all of these new pieces, these newer, weirder pieces, old classics, whatever, what have you, because we've gone to them. It's in this new space. It's exciting. They're buying up firsts of things. Your first opera on the blockchain, your first orchestral piece, your first classical piece, your first this. It's still early. It's still exciting. And these are people who would probably never go into a concert hall. And I think that's really, really exciting to kind of be able to reach another audience and for them to enjoy and find value in it. That's something you see in contemporary art or just the art field in general. It's easy to own a piece of art. You buy it, you hold it, you hang it up in your house, you wait 20 years for the artist to die, and then you resell it for 10 times its value. And here we have a case that doesn't happen to music. I mean, the one time that happened, you get the Wu-Tang Clan, and then they sold it to that pharmaceutical asshole, like who just bought that for $1 million. Like there's so few examples where people are valuing the ownership of music as a artistic commodity in a sense. And I think this is exciting because we can actually get to that. It's changed the lives of some of these composers who've already jumped into this sphere. And I think it can really change the lives of those who can be brought into it. So anyone who's going out there and setting this up and bringing in composers, bringing in musicians and putting them on the blockchain, I'm a fan of. So thank you, Nathan.
Yay. And what's interesting to me is I feel like, especially for composers, there's not the most obvious path to get into this world unless you're collaborating with lots of, musicians. And I feel that this is an interesting proposal. And then even more specifically, if we think about how composers value their time, a lot of times it's charged per minute of writing. Is that correct?
Yeah, and that's typically something that goes into it, but I think as composers get out of that classical music sphere, for instance, something that really excites me about NFTs and things I've been doing that I think are fun and fulfilling are like audio brands. Got 6 to 8 seconds. You're trying to make a recognizable and distinguishable sound that matches this behavioral clinic or this
Wow.
particular, NASA photographer or something. Just very specific examples because that's some of the ones I've like worked on. They're really fun. How do you make
That's so
someone
cool.
sound in 8 seconds or 6 seconds for their YouTube fly-in?
Mm.
I charge a lot because it takes a lot of time to make those 8 seconds. And so I'm glad I don't charge by the minute on that. But it's something really fun and it's a new type of avenue that gets out of this traditional sphere. As someone who makes a ton of music and records a lot of music, Ken, what on earth does like or NFTs mean to you? Like, can this fit into the jams? Like, how does this work for you?
Yeah, could. I think, maybe in the
Empire
way that it
Wild.
could probably fit in the most realistically right now are just my short loops, the cello pizzicato loops that I have. And in that same sense where Nathan was mentioning, it's the restriction, the how creative can you get in like a very short amount of time. And that's kind of what I have going, where I just create these like 10-second, 20-second loops of a progression that's cello pizzicato, and that could be, an NFT. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like just down the road, everything is just gonna start to become an NFT anyway. When whether people are ready for it or not, airline tickets, your concert tickets, when you go anywhere and you're scanning a QR code for anything, like that might just become an NFT down the road. So it's exciting to see what it can turn into. And I think some people may be skeptic or they're like, what is NFT? But I have a feeling it's just going to become a very central part of just how we just go about our day-to-day life and how we hold on to material or things and just carry value around.
I'm becoming more and more of an environmentalist by the day because I just see how recycling is a failure, how our landfills are overflowing. And so think about how many trees we'll save like by not printing things on paper anymore and just having them exist on a blockchain. It could be really an ecological win as well. Just extrapolating into the future. I just wanted to add that, but I'm excited.
I can't wait to funge the shit out of stuff. So, one thing I like, and particularly actually for both uh, Nathan and Ken, is with these little loops and these smaller, more fragmented things. One, it of course plays into the attention spans of the day, but also one of the hugely popular methods of NFTs now by their art comparisons are these families, these collections, these big drops. There's 1,000 of this type. There's 10,000
Mm-hmm.
Bored Ape Yacht Club people. There's a couple rocks or whatever, and people take pride on the number of their image. And just like art prints, there's a rarity. There's a
Mm-hmm.
tier, and that's something you don't really see in music. It's not like, oh yeah, I got the number 10 recording of Beethoven 5. Like no one really cares because it sounds the exact same. It's really hard to make that music distinguishable. Like, oh, did they play it better on the first 10 prints and then the rest they messed up the intro? Like, no, it's kind of hard to ascribe that value. But what's really cool in this space, because there is this value based on being part of that collection and having that ownership and then the flexibility, what I think could be exciting, and this is something I've looked into, I haven't explored it or fleshed it out yet, but these collections of music. So like Ken with your loops,
Mm-hmm.
is that 50 through 100 are just separate stems, and then maybe 25 through 49 is them layered. And then as they get closer, and then maybe number 1 is the only time they're all layered or something like that. And then it's take 3 versus take 5 versus this layer versus this layer. And so then you have all these stems that can layer and like form a full piece.
I love that.
But yet you've divided up the ownership. So everyone can own their own little variant. It feels unique. People like the uniqueness. I mean, it's the in the NFT. They like having that uniqueness, but they like being part of this family and this collection. So you might have 10,000 huge Kin fans running around there who've bought the Kin collection. And I don't know. I think that's kind of exciting because it might seem silly to us musicians or whatever. But then again, how many classical musicians have a devoted fan base of 10,000 people who are taking pride and setting their ringtones and setting their, their sounds in their lives based off of their music? Not many people in classical music, maybe
That's
none.
true.
And so you can really build this weird yet beautiful community that can also buy you a Tesla. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
I think one of the coolest things Ken has done is turn those loops into a sample pack. Maybe Ken, you could talk a little bit about that because we've seen creations made from Ken's pizzicato loops that I wouldn't have even dreamed of. I think that's cool.
Yeah, and I love to thank Mr. Drew Ford, our Lord and Savior, over here for helping me kind of put that off the ground, get that off the ground, really, because I was, as one does, one calls Drew Ford to seek some soothing of the soul in conversation and inspiration and motivation as one progresses through life. And I had one of those moments and I was feeling, a little stuck. And I call Mr. Ford over here. I was like, hey, like I have some of these things and I have some ideas. Not really sure what the standards are because I wasn't very much into that producer, I guess, world. And I've heard about sample packs, I've heard about them, but I wasn't really sure kind of what was involved in it. So Drew, being a little bit more familiar in that world, he gave me ideas or what to expect in that space and some ideas of, maybe like pricing and how to package it and everything. So special thanks to Drew. Thanks to him, I've made a few extra $100 selling those sample packs. It's great. And it's exciting. And it's really also the fact that, you're just kind of tracking your audience's response and you're doing your market research. So I was getting a lot of DMs and messages coming in from producers being like, hey, love your stuff. Can I sample this? Can I sample this? Like, or in the comments being like, can I sample this? And I was like, yes, sure, if you want to. But, so really kind of coming from that side, I was like, I guess, there are a lot of artists out there that wants to use my sound to create. And it's very similar to, how Instagram Reel, the remix feature also operates, or the TikTok duet feature also operates. You're taking somebody else's sound and you are getting creative with it, which is kind of fun, part of the fun. So was kind of putting my ears to the ground and seeing what my audiences were responding to what I was creating, what they were looking for, and then essentially just creating a product that aligned with their interests. So that's kind of what it was, because I was already creating those things anyway. So they already exist. I didn't have to do any extra work because they were already made. So it's, repackaging and rebranding. So it's also a very efficient thing.
I'm curious, can you be specific on the pathway from idea to production, what that process was like? How did you do it? Because you made an extra $100, I think that this could be valuable for our audience, especially kids who are in college trying to make a quick buck. They're trying to figure out how do they learn how to package their art. and provide it to a marketplace that has demand for their art. So can you like highlight a little bit of that process for us and how you did it?
Yeah, sure. So in the beginning, you do have to create something, right? You do need the product in and itself. And in my situation, I have this, I guess, weird niche of playing the cello like a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And that in and itself is, I guess, a unique enough sound in the music world, but also in the production world, where you have plenty of guitarists, bassists, having all these sounds already, but not so much cello pizzicato
Mm-hmm.
playing in the way that I do. So first, kind of finding what sets you slightly apart, your niche, your uniqueness, and then from there creating something that is both visually and orally interesting. I think in a very kind of compact thing, because as we all know, the attention span is very short. So we're talking like 11 to 17 seconds
Mm-hmm.
of just material, because people don't really last much longer than that.
Mm-hmm.
And then for it to by it looping really well, you're really leaning into this concept of the completion, I guess, rate of the video being watched to the end. And when videos get watched to the end is really helpful for the algorithm, because then the algorithm will deem that video as something that is of quality when anybody watches the video to the end. So by it being looped, more people will be willing to watch to the end and watch it again, because you'll have that. So, I think you'll notice that a lot in really viral TikTok videos as well, where people really do a really beautiful job creating a nice loop. So it really kind of
Mm-hmm.
triggers people to watch it more than one time. So I think keeping that in mind. And then now once you have, a series of that, in terms of like packaging, the platform that I use is called Gumroad.
Mm.
It's a very easy platform in which you just upload whatever digital product that you have. You set a price and you just put in your payout account information. And then all you have to do is just kind of put it out, share the link, and all people do is just click when they pay. It just goes straight into your account. So
It's great.
Gumroad, so that's Gumroad.
Can you put it on a
This is
website?
Say that. Yeah. Well, I think you can integrate that if you want
Okay.
to.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a link that I have in my link tree, and I
Mm-hmm.
also have it on my website. This is not sponsored by Gumroad, but this
Yeah.
is just one of the sites that I was told about when Nathan and we took our social media course back in the day, and this was
Got it.
just one of the things that was recommended. So use that, and obviously you want to try to write your copy in a compelling way and have like a specific target audience that you are looking for. In my case, specifically producers.
Buy this
And
or I'll kill you. Like,
yeah, pretty much. I think threatening people always works really well.
Yeah, facts.
And then just trying to come up with a compelling visual as your thumbnail to make it clear what it is that you are selling. And I think that's kind of how I started. But this is literally my first kind of digital products. So,
It's
I'm
genius.
trying to see how this works out, and seems like people are enjoying it. So I'll try to, pump out another one after I have like another 20, loop or so, and then just kind of get in the habit of doing that, since I'm doing this anyway in order to initially, grow an audience on Instagram and TikTok and everywhere else, and just maintain presence on the social media front. And especially right now, because Instagram has a bonus where when you upload on a reel, you're getting paid per view. And that was a source of motivation initially to be like, oh, the more I pump this out, I'm going to get paid by Instagram as well, and incentivize, because we
Okay.
get paid on TikTok too per view, and now Instagram's like trying to follow suit with that too.
wow. I'm curious to go around the room and maybe we'll start with Nathan. Since we've got some of the titans of the digital age classical musicians in here. Yes, that no shaking the heads, titans. how has it been shaping your art, your creation? You've
Mm,
now all have had a lot of experience. You've been in this for a while. You've been doing all of these awesome creative things and projects for years, evolving, growing, taking courses on improving the social media presence. So, are there any particular learnings or obvious things that you've changed? Let's say since the last time we talked, within the past year,
mm.
what are some of the new things that you're doing as we kind of come out of COVID and after all these years of experience? Let's start with Nathan and then go around.
That's a really good question. I would say that my impetus for growth tends to swing between innovation, technology, and then also, I guess since we last spoke, I think my biggest change is I've sort of gone back into music itself to really revisit why I'm doing this thing as a musician, going back to the cello and thinking about what kind of sound I'm creating, how I'm connecting with others when I'm playing chamber music. In a way, COVID, yes, spurred on this big sort of motivating factor to reimagine and rethink how I'm presenting my craft to the world through the internet. And then I feel like I got a little bit burnt out by that. And now I'm like, whoa, who am I as a musician? What do I represent when I play music? And so that's sort of been the big thing I've been thinking about lately, and just, trying to go back to really improving as a cellist.
What about you, Ken?
Yeah, I'm trying to think when the last time I even was with you guys on that podcast recording. But since then, Nathan and I took the course, and I think from then I started to be much more strategic about creation and what I create and how I put it out there. Beforehand, I really wasn't doing much research before I decided on the topic of what I was creating, or when I was even putting content out. I wasn't really doing very well with the SEO of really kind of putting in the right kind of information in, whether if it's the title, description, thumbnail, to optimize the best kind of reach and the result for the time that we spend creating, because we do spend so many hours just creating things. And when we put it out, it's always a little sad if we don't get the kind of response that we were hoping for.
Hmm.
And I was getting a lot of that prior, and I think partially it was because I was not very good at doing the research beforehand of what people were even searching for. And then when you are putting it out, really kind of doing your SEO duties of putting in all the right information in all the right places, so
King
it shows.
Kubota destroys cello loops.
Yes, that's like, just you want your things to show up in a search.
Mhm.
So in regards to YouTube, I think that has changed a little bit. I think also since then, I guess my Instagram has grown a lot more since I started doing reels, and like the cello pizzicato especially, and the reels, it kind of like took off, which has been great. Pretty much kind of like doubled in followers, which has been really good to see. But I think it just caught the right thing at the right moment when reels start to become a thing, and we noticed that just kind of as we tried different, I think, social media platforms, and TikTok is now kind of like the thing that's really blowing up. And eventually, like, these things will hit that point where you'll have more creators than, I guess, the audience consuming the content, and then we'll kind of like plateau. You won't have as much kind of bombastic viral growth anymore. But I think those are some of the things that's been different, I guess, in terms of how I operate. I think as a creator, and just making sure that when I create something, especially on Instagram or whatever, that I try to think about if I'm offering value of any
Yeah.
sort
Yeah.
is really kind of where it starts to go. Because if people are taking their time to watch my content or they choose to subscribe or follow me, I want to make sure that it's worth their time and I am providing any value, and whether if that be something educational or entertainment or inspiration, you want to, as a creator, bring value, I think, in any sense. And I think that is the baseline in which will help build an audience and have people continue to return and interact with you, is if you can continue to provide some sort of value.
I love that. Can you and Nathan kind of, or you or Nathan, like disclose who the course was by? Because it's actually a person we've been wanting to get on the podcast for a little while.
Oh, yeah. So her name is TJ Lee. Her social media presence is under Cup of TJ.
Hmm.
She's a host, like food host, food vlogger, chef, primarily kind of this funny, quirky, cute character.
Hmm.
And she has a lot of this social media coaching program driven from her success from starting at, nothing, and then really building her channel and all her experiences from during that journey. She compiles into this
Hmm.
course. I think it's a 3-month course, right, Nathan?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a 3-month course that you can take, and she's just kind of right there by your side for those 3 months, trying to teach you kind of like the ins and outs of the game, the business side
Hmm.
of things, the techie SEO, kind of all of that aspect, and also really helps you clarify who you are as a creator and
Mm.
kind of organizes your life. And I think both Nathan and I found it to be helpful, and I think we both took some valuable things out of that course.
She's brilliant. I love her to death. I actually met her in 2017 when we did the YouTube Next Up boot camp. And
Whoa.
it's so wild how, the creative world just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller over time. And
Yeah, it's
I'm glad
funny
you guys
because
did
I
that.
feel like I think there's a lot of people that initially like start off creating, but there's not a lot of people that will
Stay creating.
continue to create, for many years. And
Mm.
that's what I see a lot of, even amongst my some of my circles too. I think a lot of us saw this during the pandemic, where people all of a sudden had all these like creative spurts of they're like, oh, I'm gonna start this, I'm gonna start this year's, I'm gonna start this, I'm gonna start doing this thing. I don't know if many of them continued when things started to open up again, and that also started to die off. So it's hard. I think we all know as creators how hard it is to just keep creating and keep having a
Very
presence and just
hard.
keep putting something out there on a constant and consistent basis is a challenging thing. So I think, when you get to those kind of upper echelons of creators who've really kind of garnered a lot of following base because of their dedicated long hours and long years, it starts to really kind of narrow up top. It does filter the weak.
In every field, that's just something that's common across everything, right? Like we just were speaking with, before we jumped on this call, we were speaking with a gentleman who's doing a doctorate right now in classical guitar and is fed up with it. And I
Mm.
think one of the ingredients that, I think is not spoken about as much as like patience.
Mhm.
If you stay in the game, so many people will dip because it's become uncomfortable. So this leads me to a question for you. We'll start with Nathan. We'll jump to Ken afterward. We have a lot of like creators who are just starting out on their journey. Like, as you said, Ken, there are a lot of people that during the pandemic, they got these creative bursts, but then they stopped. And I have an idea as to maybe a factor, a really big contributing factor as to why that is. Criticism, mean comments. It's an inevitability when you are a creator doing something that's different. You're going to get people that don't like it. It's my personal philosophy that if people don't like it, you're doing something interesting. But I'm curious as to like how you guys handled that, because I'm sure, Ken, there were many people that were like, oh, he's playing it like a guitar. Why doesn't he just pits like you're supposed to, right? What are some of the mental models that you guys go through to kind of handle the criticism and have the patience to keep going through it? Nathan first.
Criticism is such a huge concept, especially so in the classical music world. We're taught to be self-critical. We get criticism from others. It comes from all over the place. I think the thing that really changed my relationship with criticism, and I'm still working on it, let's be real here, is that you have the ability yourself to address criticism. It comes from within. You don't have to feel helpless about it. And the first step that goes into that is analyzing the criticism that comes in. Is it valid or is it invalid? Is it somebody that's really trying to give you great advice that you just need to get your ego over and really make it your own in a way that's authentic in you? Or is it the different kind of criticism, which I think we alluded to, where you block it out and you stay the path, you stay steadfast? I think criticism comes in multiple forms, and understanding those two is important. So, for example, just this past week, I was in Vancouver hanging out with my family, and I was practicing, and my mom comes over and she goes, "Why are you breaking that chord in the prelude of the Bach suite like that?" Mom! One great thing that one can do is if you can articulate the reason why you're doing something, in general, that means that other criticism has less validity. It comes from a place of intentionality. That's incredibly important. If you're just doing things willy-nilly and, well, you're getting criticized, then maybe you should reconsider. I don't know. These are some of my thoughts on it, and I think it's important to always try and stay positive amongst criticism, because it can totally get you down. Internalize it in your own way, but try and move on in a positive way. Always see the path beyond.
Brilliant. Ken?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I have a few ways that I approach it. First, like coming from a mindset that regardless whatever I'm doing, there's always going to be a group of people that love what I do, a group of people that hate what I do, and a group of people that are just indifferent and doesn't give a shit about what I do. And there's just always going to be these like three groups of parties, regardless what I'm going to be doing, whether if I do what I like, whether I do something I hate. Coming from that place, I just try to always kind of center myself and just like understanding that these are the group of people that just exist, and you'll never win over 100% of the audience base. And then this is something that I think Gary Vee talks about a lot too, but this sense of empathy. I think when people are taking time out of their lives to consume your content, react to it, and then write something really mean in the comments, they're the ones that's going through a really hard time in their life, probably. And it's like a reflection of the pain that they're going through. So to kind of approach and handle them from a place of compassion and empathy is what I try to always kind of have my mindset to do. And for your initial reaction to not be, oh, I'm offended or I'm insulted or like this person is like really mean, but just kind of being like, hey, like, are you okay? Kind of like thing is, I think, a much kind of like healthier human kind of approach to things. And then the third point, I guess the third angle that I approach it is just humor. I've at least in my upbringing, I'm sure we've all been really kind of bullied. I think growing up, and the way that I dealt with a lot of bullying was just hit him, like beat them to the punchline, or just kind of turn that situation into a kind of humorous thing, and then they'll kind of you'll end up kind of winning them over a little bit. And a lot of the things that I was made fun of growing up, just as kind of like an Asian face, my like nose was flat or like my face was big. So, like when people would comment, my friends or whatever, be like, man, Ken, your head is so huge. Then I would have to be like, oh yeah, I'm so sorry. Like that recent solar eclipse, I really didn't mean to, but I just happened to just walk in front of the sun, and it seems like I caused some darkness. So that was my bad. But I'll try to, be careful where I'm walking next time. Like you just have to kind of turn every situation in that, and then it does kind of relieve, I think, a lot of it. And so same thing when people are in my comment section being like, yo, that's not how you play cello, or things like that. I'm like, oh wait, really? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll like Google it and watch some YouTube tutorials. I had the wrong idea. Sorry. Kind of like, just I think approaching things from a much more kind of humorous, positive, optimistic way can keep you sane, because it's how you end up receiving it and how you end up reacting to it. Ultimately, it's impacting you. So you can choose to either, those comments ruin your day or your week or your month, or you can start to build, if anything, a skill set and really build a callus in your mind. And
Callous your mind.
Callousing your mind, and also learning these little tricks that you can also transfer to other, social situations when you're in that awkward situation when somebody criticizes you or somebody, insults you. Like, can you turn that around? So that's kind of the three places that I try to tackle it from.
I'm curious about the perspectives, because what we're going through now has never happened in human history. All those comments are things, more often than not, that they would never say to your face if you knew who they were. You'd never interact in real life anyways. And if you look at the scope of some of these things, you post up a YouTube video, 50,000 people look at it, and you're like, nah, my last one got, 250,000. This one's okay. If 50,000 people showed up at your next Empire Wild concert, you would lose your fucking mind. It's a stadium. The Beatles have arrived. Let's go. Buying the 2 Maseratis. And yet we look at these numbers now and they don't really mean anything. We get these weird comments and they don't really mean anything.
Yeah,
all these numbers. It's really weird. You guys are on the edge of this, the cutting edge. You're going through these experiences where it's very likely, in fact, there's a high likelihood that more people, more ears have heard what you're doing than ever heard Brahms during his time, Bach during his time, Mozart during his time, Vivaldi during his time, combined. And you're reaching more ears, and certainly a bigger, more diverse set of audiences, certainly more global. And yet it still feels weird to just have such impact, such outreach, and honestly providing this much value. How does all of this sit in your mind? How do you also combat these? Obviously with dealing with humility and trying to be set in reality, but how do you deal with this different types of numbers? Because there is no playbook. No one else has done this before. How do you cope?
To be honest, I stopped caring about the numbers a long time ago, because the numbers don't bring me happiness. Different types of things bring me happiness these days.
Money brings me happiness. The numbers don't matter anymore.
Except in my bank account.
Yeah.
Except in dollar bills, baby.
Except
No,
Bitcoin.
I think the greatest satisfaction comes, at least in my musical life, the greatest satisfaction has come from moments where I feel I've performed or executed in a way that reflected my level of preparation. It's so stupid in a way when I say it out loud, but when you play just like the way you want to play, that gives you a lot of happiness. I think because then the worst thing that one can happen, I feel, is you say, well, I know I could have done better. To me, that's the greatest disappointment any creative can have. So instead of fighting for numbers, I fight for that feeling where I did what I set out to do. And I don't set out for numbers.
I think you're really good at that. That's one of the things I admire about Nathan too. Like just, growing up in our little musical endeavors together, just you've always been kind of that guy who, is willing to put in like 100% in your preparation for something that you really want, and this was the same thing that I saw when you were preparing for your auditions for your orchestra auditions. This was the same when you were preparing for your Marlboro auditions. I think that's something that's, easy to say, but really hard to, I think, pull off. And I think I see that when your preparation actually takes fruit and you're able to execute it the way that you intended it, and having that the most direct line from, I guess, the idea that you have in your mind directly to through the cello out to your output, it's just always really kind of cool to see. And it's as we know as musicians, it's one of the hardest things to do, like that direct line from what we first visualize in our head to what comes out of our instrument and how the audience hears it, to get that as efficient and as direct as possible is one of the hardest things to do. And I think Nathan's really kind of crushing that.
Oh,
Much
thanks,
respect.
man. That means a lot coming from you.
I wanted to echo that, Ken. I wanted to echo that about Nathan because Faking Fam, if there's one thing that you'll learn is that working with somebody in a project really teaches you about who they are as a person. And like in working on Adele's Hello cover for our entrepreneur project back at Juilliard, man, I learned so much about commitment from you. And that's one of those things that I don't know, at least personally, commitment's hard. It's scary because like, what if it doesn't work out? Right? It's that fear of the unknown. But you don't seem to have that fear, Nathan, because I think that one thing that you've kind of learned, and I think learned before I did, is that like when you truly commit to something, it's not a failure is not necessarily the option, because there is no failure when you have full commitment. Right? When you really visualize something, it may not come, success may not come in the form that you envision, right? And I think that's true because you didn't just audition for Seattle. You had other, orchestras you worked out for. But I think the goal was just to play at the level that you wanted to play. And you trusted in the fact that the result would be something beautiful, something that would carry your life forward. And I think people are blinded to that reality of commitment. It's like, yeah, like I'll only be happy if I get in to Philadelphia or Chicago, right? But you could get into Atlanta. You can get into the Met. You can get in New York, Phil. You can get into LA, right? So I think that by having that open-mindedness and committing, that's the greatest lesson I learned from you. And one of the reasons I look up to you so much is because you're not afraid to commit, because you know at the end it'll be fine. You leap and the net will appear. And that's one of the most beautiful things about you.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate it. I feel everyone in this room has a deep sense of commitment, and I think we've learned how important that is. Even though I feel commitment for all of us manifests itself in slightly different ways, we understand the importance of it, and I think that's something I really respect about all of you. Really, truly. And on the subject of Adele, Drew, have you
Hello.
told the story to the Faking Notes podcast fam of
I
a
don't think I have.
a little something?
You
I
know,
want to know it from the horse's mouth.
Okay.
How cool was that?
Okay. So
Everyone, Drew played with Adele.
Yeah, it was surreal. Okay, so here's what went down. So I was slated to play with Kishibashi down in Orange on a Saturday, and I'd had it on the books for about a month and a half. So I was like, okay, this is locked in. 2 weeks before that performance, I get a call from Stephanie Matthews. And the one thing that I've learned, we've actually had Stephanie on the podcast.
Faking fam.
Faking fam. When you get a call from Stephanie Matthews, you cancel everything else and you just say yes. You don't know what it will be, but you just have to trust. And so after missing out on playing on a few prominent gigs for her because of other conflicts, I've just learned if I get a call from her, nothing else matters. I need to be doing this. So I learned that.
That's cool.
So I did that, didn't know what it was for. So I get to this nondescript, I get a call saying that there's going to be multiple shooting dates. So I need to block off about 5 days just randomly, and they're just going to pick which day they're going to shoot. So we did a pre-shoot at this like warehouse that was in the middle of like Glendale somewhere. I don't even remember. And they didn't tell us who it was for. Like it was all hush hush. They for the songs that we were recording, they had like letters, just like AK or OK or PS. Right?
But could you tell what you were playing immediately from the first sweet notes?
Not necessarily, because it was a lot of her new stuff.
Oh, right.
And
right.
in the tracks that we were playing, there was no vocals, so it was just all string parts. But shout out Faking Fan member Leah Ziegler was on the gig, and she ran up to me and was like, "You know who this is for, right?"
Whoa.
I was like, "I have no idea." So she spilled the beans, but we were not supposed to say anything, and I had to keep it super low key, tight lipped.
Of course.
So we essentially, what her team had done is they had like blocked off all of Griffith Observatory. Like the road was blocked off at the base of the little mountain. So all the musicians were supposed to park in like this Food for Less across from the UCB theater, now closed on Sunset. We park in this defunct grocery store parking lot, take a shuttle up the mountain, because the shuttle was the only party that had access. They had roadblocks, they had security. It was nuts. So we go up, we get to the observatory. We're about a football field away from the stage, and there's a staging area where we have to check in. We all got tested. So we had to check in for testing, temperature check, and then we had to go to another kiosk to get our credentials. And at that kiosk, we were given stickers, and we had to place the stickers over our cameras on both sides, the front and rear.
Whoa!
They were not fucking around.
Camera stickers.
It was called Project Blue. Like they did not want people knowing about this. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, man. One night only. So we go in, we do a rehearsal. It was cool. It was dope. Adele was not there, but we just ran the show. And then we come back the next day. The production had been pushed a day early because there was a chance of rain.
Wow.
It's supposed to be on a Monday, but we had to push everything forward on a Sunday. All the A-list stars had to come through a day early. So
and they
we get dressed, we get fitted.
Yeah, I had to change my whole schedule for this. It was crazy.
Yeah, Trev, I see you. I saw you sitting next to Childish Gambino.
Yeah.
So we get dressed. It's one of those things. Hollywood, it's like hurry up and wait. So we're just waiting around for hours and hours and hours.
Mm-hmm.
Call time's 10. We show up, get fitted. And then we're just waiting. We're eating. We're chilling, talking
good
shit,
food,
reading.
All right.
It was food. And so we go. And then we go. So we're walking, we're all dressed, we have our instruments in tow, and we're walking past all the trailers housing the equipment. There are the lights, the cameras, the equipment. Jaw dropping. It was a crew of
Amazing.
hundreds of people working on this production.
It was
So
a
we're walking
beautiful
past some of the
production.
trailers, and then we're getting close to the stage, and there are already stars there. Aaron Paul and Nicole Richie are just like waving at us emphatically, saying, yeah, let's go. Super nice, dude. I was like, are you serious? Is this a computer screen? Like, are you real life? Is this real life?
Music,
So,
bitch.
Music, bitch. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, bitch.
I love that's where Mr. Daniel Danger.
Science, bit.
That's why we need a producer
Science.
coming in with
Exactly.
the hits.
So we walk past, I see Tyler Perry in front of me talking to some people. Gordon Ramsay walks by and says, good luck.
Wow.
I was like, what? I was like, okay.
Wow.
Saw Tracy Ellis Ross. I saw Oprah like way in the distance.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was wild. So we get on stage, it's cold, our hands are frozen, it's really hard to play. We hook up our DPA mics and plug in our ears, and so we do the set. And then about 10 minutes into the set, Drake and his posse walk in, and like during Rolling in the Deep and everything, Drake is just bobbing his head and like having a good old time. I was like, what is this?
And that was the first time you
Whoa.
saw Adele.
That was Adele walks out. Actually, she was there for the rehearsal earlier that day. But yeah, first time I saw her walk out in her dress with her Saturn earrings.
Whoa. Was she cool? Did she kind of wave to you guys? Did she pay respects? Press F to pay respects?
No.
Oh man. I'm sure she had a lot going on in her
She
head.
had a
not
lot
say
going
hello.
on. She did not say hello.
Oh, what the heck?
God damn it.
Hello.
Adele didn't say hello.
How are you? No. She that did not happen, but I think I felt her gratitude from afar. I will say that. But at the end of the day, like a lot of these A-list stars, it's so rare. I've been fortunate to like meet a couple or be around a couple. And most of them just don't have time. They have so much, like they're going to get airlifted out right after this thing. They're just like, they're on a different schedule. So that wasn't necessarily the best part, but you know what? Like it was a night to remember. Like everybody was like so engaged. It was a masterclass in how to really command attention from an audience and how to perform at the highest level. Like she did everything live.
I know.
Like that was not a lip sync. She was singing everything live. She was under the weather. She was having back problems.
What?
She was injured and she did all that.
She's amazing.
So, I mean, and it was cold. Like you couldn't really tell, but it was like 55 with like wind blowing. Like people in the audience were bundled up and we were in t-shirts and she was in a strapless dress, you know what I mean? And she was crushing it. And you couldn't tell, right? Consummate professional. So I'm thankful for the experience.
That's amazing.
It's interesting how you see those stars rise to those big, rise to their moment in kind of like, I don't know. It's like either fight or flight. It feels like that in a way, but there's a poise and there's a understanding of the moment when you see somebody that really knows how to perform. That's just very awe-inspiring. There's a clutch.
Can I call back to something Ken said too? She called it out. You know, Ken, you were talking about like if you're gonna make it fun of about something you're afraid of, that you'll call it out. One of the first things she says, like, I'm fucking nervous. I can't do the
the British accent.
British accent.
That's pretty good.
But no,
good.
she was like, I need a moment. It was real, and she called it out, and she got an applause from everybody because everybody's been there. Like we all know what it's like. And then she composed herself, and she crushed it. Just own it. Like if you're nervous, just own it. It's just that lesson was being taught again. Just own that shit.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of one of the old, I think it was Charisma on Command videos, but it was talking about in social situations where you are more accomplished necessarily in that particular field to whoever you're talking to. You're an A-list celebrity, like us, or but you're going on and you never want to make the person you're talking to feel uncomfortable or feel less or that they don't get what you're talking about. And it really goes towards that relatability. And it used all these different types of examples. Jennifer Lawrence is a master of this. Even the recent vulnerable interviews, like Andrew Garfield going out there, I think the loss of his mother or something along those lines. And when you see this vulnerability or people saying, I'm really nervous about this, or I was really uncomfortable, and describing how they felt in just a relatable human way, it sets the perfect stage to allow someone to feel like you do. So I think we can all say we're all just like Adele.
she's the next guest on this podcast, right?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
no, our
We're
people
all
talking
30
about
or whatever,
Yeah.
But I don't put it on my album, I just
She had to reschedule with Oprah just to make room for us. So,
I wanted to talk a little bit about one of the things you said, Nathan, that I thought was beautiful, that I think a lot of us can really relate to. There's something about executing on your plan, and that's the most beautiful thing. I think it's very similar to composition. I think, at least for me, besides the standard exploring or curiosity or testing out ideas or working with people you love and all these other musical goals, I think really what the craft of composition is just getting ever closer to being able to put your idea on the paper, to execute. Because I have a great idea, and they try to write it down. Turns out it wasn't so great. But they just weren't able to execute that. And that's what I think I just noticed over time as I got a little closer. Well, that was like 50% of my imagined vision, or what I projected as the next thing. It's 51%. It's getting closer. If we think of sports, obviously there's an end goal. You want to win. Winning's great. It's really good for your team. It's good for any sport. Typically, winning, good idea. You heard it here first. But there's that thing you always hear with coaches, or they're coming out there, and it's not necessarily about being hard on themselves, but they're getting interviewed, and yeah, we played a great game, and we put up more points than the other team. Well, duh, that's how you win the game.
Right.
Whatever, great answer. But they're always talking, oh yeah, well, I wish in the third quarter the penalties were killing us. They could have crushed it, put up 40 points, won the game handedly. But the only time you really see them smile and happy isn't when they toughed out some sloppy game. It's when they're like, we came in and we executed the game plan and we won on all sides of the ball. Unlike the Carolina Panthers today, it was the opposite of that. But when you watch in the finals, LeBron executing perfectly, the Golden State Warriors during that awesome period where it just looked beautiful, the Spurs before that, the Lakers before that, where you're just watching teams that maybe even didn't have the best talent, but there's that thing of beauty where they're just executing.
It's amazing.
All of these sports, the Olympics, all these athletes, to watch someone execute a game plan, that's when you really see them smile. It's not even the medal always.
Yeah.
When they've done and reached their potential, that's where that happiness comes from. And I definitely think that's something super relatable. And I'm glad you were able to bring that up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in total agreement. I think that's the beauty of the game, if you will. I like the concept you said, all sides of the ball. What are all sides of music to you all?
Ken?
Performance. Performance, composition, improvisation, exploration.
NFTs.
Oh, yeah.
I want to ask our resident inconsistency expert,
Yes.
Ken, That was, of course, one of the focuses, and you were an inspiration for this podcast. We don't make it to 100 without the template of consistent Ken going in there and just always showing up and sticking around. And it's something we spoke to earlier about. So many people come in there and realize how hard it is to do. Everyone looks, oh yeah, a funny little video. Oh, I could do that. And then 4 weeks later, that took how many hours? No one liked it. This sucks. This is awful. 1 year in, quitting, all these other things. And I don't mean that as, and we don't mean that as a diss to them. It's really just a token of praise and respect for you to have been there, and all of you to be so consistent and just being a presence for years and years and years. Again, it's something unique because this is new. This whole space is new. It's not even 20 years old. We're not even close to that. And yet you've now been in it for a while. One, are you tired? And are you okay? And two, what is the next phase of consistency? Is it this strategy? Is it maybe allowing yourself gaps or having planned gaps, being consistent in the execution? Where are you in your consistency? You're multiple years in, but is it changing a little? Are there tips to keeping it established, to keep going when the grind gets tough? What is it for you?
Yeah, so I'm at an interesting point now where I broke my streak. So I stopped running, right? Metaphorically. So I'm at a place where I took, the biggest hiatus that I ever did as a content creator in terms of consistency. And for the first 500 videos, which took like 5 years or something, I, promised to myself that every Tuesday and Friday I will have a video out. And then once I hit that 500, I was like, okay, I'm going to take a break and take a step back and kind of reevaluate. Because one of the things that you guys probably also know is when you're in that kind of schedule, your world just kind of revolves around it. That's kind of all you're thinking about, on a constant basis. That's taking up all your free time. So you don't end up actually having that much moment to self-reflect or evaluate. I think where you are or what you want to do in your next steps or how you want to reinvent yourself. So this has been really kind of nice. I mean, it's definitely really nice not to be strapped to that anymore. And it's also significantly harder to go back to consistency once you've fallen off that.
Oh, preach, brother, preach.
And
snaps on that. Let's go.
It's tough, because initially I was like, okay, I'm only gonna, maybe do like a few weeks of just like a break, and I'm gonna hop back on this horse and just gonna keep riding along. Definitely did not happen. And I feel like it's very similar to long distance running, right? When you are running and moving, it's a little bit easier to keep the momentum, but the moment you like stop running, it's really hard to just like
get back
start running again. So that's kind of where I am. And I've talked to Drew about this, and during kind of my tail end of my 500, I was like, man, like this is getting tough, and especially because at that time the pandemic hit and I had to convert all my JHM jams into virtual sessions, which took significantly more time and much more labor intensive. And it was really hard to keep that going. So, Drew being the guru that he is, he's like, like it's okay to not define yourself. I know, because like part of the issue that I had is that, even in my previous appearance in your podcast or just my brand, I felt was becoming that consistent guy. And that was putting my own pressure to myself of being like, so if I stop being consistent, then am I not Ken anymore? Like, is that where, I lose my identity? Mm-hmm. And, that's not necessarily the case. I mean, it seems like you guys still talk to me, and still recognize me as
Cut the
Ken.
feed.
So, that's good news that you don't lose your friends when you stop
No,
being consistent in your content
definitely
creation.
not. No.
But it's been cool because now that I took the break, then it opened me up to do a lot of other things that I like didn't realize I wanted to do, or the things that maybe I wanted to do but just didn't have time for because I was strapped to a schedule. And some of those things include just like putting out more just like cello pizzicato videos. I enjoy doing it, and it like really builds my technique that I want to build in order for me to either produce songs or write songs. And when I took the break too, I had more time to spend with my band Empire Wild. And because I did, I spent more time editing videos with them, which allowed me to apply for CAG, the Concert Artist Guild, for our audition. And I was able to put together a compelling video audition because I spent more time editing that instead of JHM. And fortunately, we won. And now that opened up a whole new career front for me. And even writing songs with other people or working on other collaboration projects, I think with other people, it it now opened up a lot of things. Now I feel like, in the 500 videos, I've built a foundation in which I could now stand on and have some sort of credibility of my existence and identity. And now it's opened up, I think, a variety of new ventures that I'm excited about and happy to be in. So that's kind of where I am. At first, I was a little sad and a little disappointed in the breaking of the streak. But then once I took a step back, I realized, it was a valuable thing, and I definitely needed a little rest from that ridiculous streak. And it like doesn't mean that I'll quit. I still make JHM jams and still putting those videos out, but I'm still able to do it and still have fun because now it's not something where I feel like I just like have to or else, kind of thing. So
I love that.
that's where we are in my current journey.
And I set you up with a leading question because I wanted you to talk about it. It was a trap. You fell right in because
Sneaky, sneaky.
to have done so many things. But I loved how you framed it. Looking at the lives and strategies of athletes, every sport has an off season, and yet we don't really talk about that in music. When we have
Yeah.
our off season, it's summer festival time. Go do some other gig during the summer. Go play at this other festival. You never really get a break. And there was beauty in the consistency of hitting that hot streak, hitting number 100,
Mhm.
hitting number 500. But if LeBron James played basketball every single day, he wouldn't win those championships.
Mm-mm.
Like it wouldn't happen. Like it's a timed peak thing. They're sitting out games halfway through, and it sucks for whoever bought tickets to those. But that's the game you play. Like they're thinking about their end game, the beauty of their sport and their craft. And a big part of that is the off season. There were some really cool interviews from other athletes and cyclists. They're young, they're at the top of their game, and they might go an extra hour in their training, or they're going to go out and do a long bike ride during the off season, and then they tell their coach. And instead of being praised, wow, that's great, really putting in the extra time, they're like, get off the bike. Yeah, I told you to rest.
Mhm.
Like this is part. Do you want to win the championship next year? It's not about going hard now. Like you need this downtime. You need to go watch film. You need to go do these other things. Look back at the videos of you training. Do different strategies. And so, if anything, to me, it doesn't seem like there was any break in the consistency because your consistency is being kin and is creating. And so
Yeah.
you're just doing it in a different fashion, in a different hot streak, and in a different method. So you're still on your Ken hot streak. You're still going.
I appreciate that because I've been doing a lot of Peloton. That's kind of my new exercise
Nice.
thing, and the instructors talk about this all the time. Where we do interval training where they're like, this recovery period is just as important. Like take the recovery, because if you recover well, it'll allow you to hit harder on that next push. And I really feel that. And I think that's kind of what it is. And also, whatever during the consistency period, I think with anything, we just need maybe, we do need, I think, a chunk of time of some form of consistency to just develop a skill. And I think
Mhm.
that's just kind of what I was doing during that time. I was just developing the skill of how to record, how to mix, how
Mhm.
to master, how to film something, how to record and edit a video, all of those things, how to even schedule and organize a group of people to appear in one place, and to lead a
This
session.
podcast.
Yeah, like lead a session like in an organized and productive way. And I feel like all of those things are now tools that I have kind of built and learned that I can apply to other things in life. And I'm sure you guys have all felt that, doing what you do, like the seeming like you might not be focused on those things as you are creating and being consistent, but when you kind of look back and think about the skill sets that you have learned by doing something over and over and over again, and just like failing and just learning from your mistakes and just building some sort of skill sets, when you notice the transferability of the skill sets that you learn in any one thing that you did consistently, and then that being a really strong asset and a tool to build something else later, is I think things that I'm starting to notice more now that I've taken a step back and reevaluated what I have learned from my time of being consistent.
Ken, I feel like I owe you money.
Should I just tell you what my Venmo account is
Yeah, dude,
now?
just
Is that
send me your Venmo, man. Like, you're
Gonna buy
just
your sample
dropping
pack.
fucking gems. You know what I learned from doing JHM jams with you, bro? The skills you gave me have paid dividends here in Los Angeles, because a lot of like what happens is, like, for instance, my roommate and I, Winton, were called to go do some short video with JoJo in Gold Digger's studio, and they sent us tracks with string parts
Mm-hmm.
but no music, and they needed us to show up the
Oh,
next day.
wow.
So guess what I had to do? I had to do the JHM Jam special, listen to these tracks, and like play them by ear. And that's
Nice.
Yeah,
how
there you go.
everything works. Like, the higher you go, the less time they have for like making sheet music, making sure you're okay. Like, you got to just be able to listen and do it. And that's what JHM Jams was. You just show up and you figure it out quickly. It's the best incubator, man.
Man, wow, that is high praise and honor. We should have just made all of this like an NFT. So, when I get the dividends from you using
Oh yeah, the education. Oh yeah, man. It's
the
like, oh
education NFT.
yeah, the resell, man. Aside from that, like, Nathan, I'm curious, from your social media journey,
Hmm.
what are you most excited for outside of the NFT space? Like, what's like some value you want to give to the internet at large with your art?
Making music is a fickle thing. At the same time, spontaneous and in the moment, but at the same time, it's the result of 20 plus years of practice and execution and planning.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding that dichotomy is humbling, and seeing a world of creators capturing that divide and pull is both inspiring and also daunting. Finding how you fit in that picture, I think, is a lifelong journey. You have to try a lot of things, see if something sticks. But when you find that thing, you run with it, baby. I guess one always needs to see how one can improve oneself, one can grow. Never stay settled with what you're doing. I think one of the beautiful things I've seen Ken do is, it's not just consistency that I really love about Ken, but it's consistently creative. that's what I've really appreciated about how Ken gives value to people. And it's something I take to heart, and trying to find that creative consistency is certainly a goal we should all strive for.
I couldn't agree more, brother.
I love you, man.
Before we wrap up, it's all love. I love every single person on this call. You guys
Love
are
going around.
wonderful, wonderful human beings, and I'm so lucky and thankful to be on planet Earth with you at the same time. Like it's so beautiful, and this is why I love art. It just, the people who make it are just some of the greatest. Do you guys have any final questions for Trevor and me before we wrap it up? We wanted to give the floor out to you, let you take control for a little bit.
Yes, I have been working out. Thank you for asking.
I was wondering about
You look
those
swole
big
as shit,
arms.
bro.
It's good. It's because it's only it's my good angle.
I have a question.
Hit us.
As things seemingly shift back to equilibrium in this world, how have you changed as an individual?
Trevor, you first.
One thing I've talked about is what brings me the most joy and the consistency in my life is collaboration. Working with people, I love thinking about things. And my most recent collaboration is on the business side of music, noticing what I enjoy, these types of conversations, helping out other artists. I spent a lot of time after moving to LA. I kind of had my pre-pandemic quarantine of 1 year of sadness, from which this podcast was born. And Drew and conversations with you both have helped drawn me out. And so I was prepared for the pandemic. I was like, oh, I've been sad and alone for a year before. I just did this. I'm ready. And so I had a very fruitful moment in this tragedy. And through that, I think what I'm most excited about, besides discovering my why, I want to help musicians. I want to help artists. I want to provide value to them and to help them be better artists, better citizens, better people. I don't want it to go back to equilibrium. And I think that's what's jumping back to me, is that there's this realization of, how things were kind of insane, kind of awful. They weren't equitable. They weren't fair. Why should we return to this? And so for the past year or so, I've been working alongside Drew on this podcast and in the blockchain space, and with our old classmate Tommy Rohn on the concert creation and concert booking side of things, with the sole mission of things should be better and things will be better. So I've at least noticed that fire, that execution has now been put towards conversations like these, setting up gigs, finding money for artists, thinking about NFTs, being able to provide value to other artists and to help them out. I spent a lot of time working inward, and now I'm spending a lot of time looking outward, looking at everyone else's problems and saying, hey, let's make it better this time. So that's what I'm looking for and where I've been moving this past year.
Yeah, Trevor, I've learned so much from you in this experience. I've learned from each and every one of you such important lessons. During the pandemic, the forced quarantine gave me space to read more. It gave me space to recognize that, much like Ken, going on the hamster wheel of content creation without a clear goal, clear purpose is a recipe for burnout. And I did not want to reignite the engine if I didn't know what I'd be working for. And so I'd spent the last year learning about money, learning about ownership, learning about essentially how does one ensure future security, because I realized I'm going to die. And if I die, I won't be able to provide for my family. Or if, like, let's say I get in a car crash here in Los Angeles and mangle my hand, if I can't play anymore, how am I going to put food on the table, right? And I realize I can do that by working today to acquire assets, to accumulate capital that can residually earn me income for generations to come. And so I was like, okay, this is what we really work for. It's not to get that next gig with Adele. It's not to get the next Grammy. It's to be able to like be financially free and pursue the projects that I want to do without having to supplicate for funding from somebody who learned the rules of the game before I did. And then pass on that knowledge and that understanding to other people once I've achieved it. Because if there's one thing I've learned in this life is like people don't care what you have to say until you've actually done it. And if you haven't done it, it's all just talk. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to continue to plan to do that and execute.
So if you liked us talking, please like and subscribe. And so if you just for more episodes, it's like
That was straight fire, Drew.
Dude,
Bro,
that's some
Let's
nuggets
get
right
it.
there. That's
Let's
some
get it.
nuggets.
Are y'all fired up right now? I hope you're fired
Dude,
up.
yeah, super
Let's get it.
fired up.
Let's
No,
get
that's
it,
great, man. You guys
Can
are
we meet up
all-
in our Teslas?
yeah.
Let's go.
Man, you guys are all amazing. You know, like I don't have a question for I feel like either of you, but just my salute to all of you for, you know, being who you are. And one of the things that I value and something that I also try to strive for in my own life is just to, I guess I'm coming from a place where one of my fears is to be lonely. So I appreciate when I meet people who make me feel less lonely in the world, or you as a human being try to make the people around you feel less lonely, I think, in the world. And in the way that you do this, whether it's through creating, you know, content and making sure that the people watching or consuming your content, if they feel like an outcast or if they feel like they're a little lost or they feel lonely in their journey, you guys are there to be like, hey, it's okay. We're there for you. We're part of this together, you know. And even in this podcast, you know, all of the value that you bring to your community, you know, and making sure that nobody feels out of place or they feel lonely in their whatever journey that they are on, I think is something that I value and cherish in people. And I think you guys are right in that pocket. So I love you all.
Love you too, bro. Thank you.
United we stand.
Producer Daniel, you wanna end it up, like put the cap on it, man.
Well, just want to wrap up by asking both you guys a question. I guess things are picking back up now. We're kind of, you know, slowly going back to normal. Concerts are coming back again, and I guess projects are restarting. I actually just played a concert yesterday with the acclaimed Drew Alexander Ford, and it was weird, man.
It was wild.
I felt like a baby goat, you know, trying to walk. It was just like, how do I do this? You know?
Yeah.
But anyways, I guess we're just kind of, I just want to like pull out the red carpet. You guys got anything exciting coming up? Any projects you're working on?
I think in terms of projects, there are the kind of things that I've been doing and we've talked about, the JHM Jams that you can find on YouTube, and the pizzicato riffs that you can find on Instagram and TikTok at Ken James Kubota. And then the sample pack, if you're interested, if you're a producer, you can find through those links in my bio or my website, kenjameskubota.com. And my band, Empire Wild. We are churning out songs and we have shows coming up in a variety of places. So if you would like to come see us, check our website at empirewild.com. And we'll be out and about. Hopefully, we don't have any shows on the West Coast yet. So hopefully we book some so I get to see some of your pretty faces out there and such. But those are kind of the things that's been going on in my life. But, you can always keep up on my journey on all the socials. I will be sure to let you guys know when exciting things pop up on the radar. What about you,
Let's
Nathan?
go.
Great to be on the podcast again. Such a united community we have in the Faking Notes fam. So appreciate it. Be on the lookout. If you are a Grammy Recording Academy voter, be sure to vote for the Seattle Symphony for Best Orchestral Performance. Would really appreciate that. We worked really hard on this album. Also, Sprock, Zarathustra, some powerful stuff. Going to be playing a couple of concertos as this season plays out. If you're on the West Coast, they're all in California and in the Seattle area, Pacific Northwest. Be sure to come out, support your boy.
Your boy.
It's your boy.
Of course, follow me on Instagram at Nathan Chancello. Hit up my website, nathanchan.com. It's a long game.
Yes, sir.
This journey of life. I'm looking forward to experiencing it all with each and every one of you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
This is the fellowship of the Faking fam.
See you
Thanks
in a
again,
year,
everyone.
boys.
See you
I'm the
next year.
sexy elf. I'm the sexy elf.
Yeah,
I'm the
yeah.
sexy elf in the fellowship.
Oh, thanks again, everybody. We'll talk soon.
Thank
See
you.
y'all later.